We beginnings. Although a veritable ocean, this is chapter 1, by the way. Although a veritable ocean of circumstances and coincidences have effectually conspired to produce the miracle of one's bare existence, preceding one's time and place in the stream of history, if not by preordination, I only wish mainly to emphasize in the record a general outline and overview with some such special details, perhaps, relevant to the picture I want to create, and as a byproduct of one's outgrowth of such, for general purposes applicable to a perceived usage of any such qualities thus attained within the context of one's component of mature thinking, arrived at by assiduous efforts at integration and synthesis of a variety of cogitations appertaining thereto. Indeed, education itself and degrees of personal enlightenment achieved by the acquisition of multiple reaches of knowledge per se conduce to allowing one to obtain a holistic understanding of subjects and orientations contributive to one's overall and unique makeup. As such, whereby and wherein a specialized form of contribution can be made, beneficial to the world around him, expressing and exhibiting at the same time his personal and often latent talents, skills, and capabilities regarding any such matters of potential importance, discovering a useful part of the whole, as it were. In my case, for instance, upon the discovery that one such early Americana origins of my own particular lineage, that, in fact, I just might be of relation to 5 sitting presidents, of which I know for sure that at least one figures into the equation. Nevertheless, I suspect more than one does, if not actually 5. This revealing factor as to my predecessors has indeed had a major and substantial impact on not only my view of my own genetic makeup, but regarding the greater context of what it means to be an American in my thinking. Obviously, such enlightenment of my history and ancestry has conduced to make me already proud to be a constituent member of the grand incorporation that is America, swelling with greater pride to know his forebears played such a major role in the foundation of this great enterprise of Western civilization. In addition, this magnification of such pertinent knowledge to one's self-image becomes a most edifying factor when one such as myself relished that I was imbibed with a certain sense of patriotic relevance by having come of age in the bicentennial era of America's history, as something of a generational consummation of sorts. The year 1976 was both the year of my high school graduating class, as well as the year I enlisted with the U.S. Army. It is for this reason that I had internalized the American mythos, which made me identify as the all-American boy par excellence. In my estimation of myself, I was as red-blooded Americana as you could get, and proudly wore that banner even as I sallied forth to cut a fine display of both patriotism and the attendant superior work ethic I attributed thereto. So being already something of the American quintessence of ethos, to then ascertain historical said ramifications quite reinforced my identification therewith, to the degree that I felt perchance I myself may indeed have a definitive role to play in the ongoing saga of which I became inspired to contemplate as an integral part of the great edifice. This coming to fruition was before I considered factors of my own ethnic national origins, it should be said, because the idea had been fully formed in me by decidedly having inherited the idea of de jure American citizenship being a status irrespective of one's ethnicity or genetic makeup. I was the consummate product of the prescriptive generic citizen in composition and ideology, and epitomized this idea to the fullest. This is saying that I was the true blue American by birth, citizenship, and by race. No one, especially due to my early Americana background, was more the American national than I was, and I was damn proud of it. In fact, as the nation's bicentennial was accompanied by a substantive amount of pomp and circumstance, getting my first ever real job at the 1776 Inn at 3 Century Swim Club as an Ohio farm boy, 4-H'er in the antique capital of Ohio, only bolstered my character along these lines. As an issue of my decisive importance to my intellectual or ideological formulation, I sought to flesh out history as a discipline, especially concerning my native country's evolution and beginnings. Certain independent conclusions were arrived at to solidify my understandings and to put things in a proper perspective. In pondering writings of the American founders and philosophical underpinnings, I came to glean certain fundamentals that I deduced had become lost or shrouded by the passage of time. One such idea was that concerning the ethnic makeup of what came to be the U.S. The idea of e pluribus unum took on more meaning to me than merely one nation out of many people. There was no doubt that this grand construct was devised by and for a distinctively European race of men, mostly influenced by English philosophical hegemony in the main. I deduced that what the intention was regarding national aspirations per se was the actual creation of a new racial construct, nation proper, from the plethora of distinctive ethnicities comprising specifically European countries of origin. Instead of England for English, Germany for Germans, and so forth, the ideal was to be America for Americans. That is, a fusion of distinctively European consanguinity melded into a similar division of nationality germane to the inclusiveness of status within the Western amalgamation of peoples specifically. Accordingly, I found this whole idea of a melting pot of mongrellism, as supposed exemplified by a later edition of the Statue of Liberty, to be quite a distortion of original intentions and purposes. Indeed, the disconnect appeared to me disingenuous, as it later came to me intentional subversion of history vis-a-vis our native formative and formulative conceptions. Basic laws of interpretation resident in our language or system delineates the fact that the term nation is attendant on nationality. The whole devolution to confer any notion of de jure citizenship status that never was intended from the outset, regardless what the naysayers would impute, is wholesale bunk. It is a lie and deception perpetrated by de facto alien elements keen to exploit peoples and cultures by deceptive means to divide and conquer for perverse advantage. I was thus faced with the proposition, how did we get to be so far afield, and what must we do to get our country back on track, if that's even possible, considering the extent of the subversion and infiltration of foreign elements not native to our enterprise. I have, upon long cogitation on this matter, arrived at some surprising conclusions. I intend to enumerate and expound upon these throughout the course of this work. In the interim, I will continue to lay the groundwork for what I deem to be the imperative extension of this topic, and the salutary panaceas which I prescribe must take place if we are to salvage our crumbling civilization, and to ensure we continue to have our place in the sun and to greater heights than before experienced.